Want to create a more exciting, sexy date night? Whether you've just started dating or are already in a committed relationship, the Date Night Card Deck is designed to bring you and your partner to new heights of passion and romantic intimacy. The Date Night Card Deck includes a variety of sexy and stimulating questions and action cards designed to help you find new ways to communicate and connect. Move your relationship into new realms, and maybe even jumpstart a wild and sexy night. Order your Date Night Card Deck today on Amazon. Just type Date Night Card Deck Tammy Nelson. That's Date Night Card Deck Tammy Nelson. Create your exciting and sexy date night today.
Hi, sexy listeners. Welcome to The Trouble with Sex. We have discussed trauma quite a bit on the show and how it can perpetuate negative patterns in our lives and in our sex lives and in our intimate relationships. I cannot emphasize enough that none of us are immune to trauma, and this topic can't be talked about enough on our show. I really feel like this is where we're all going in the world. And I really am committed to helping us heal from trauma. Now, today, we're going to talk more about my own personal trauma, as usual. And I brought on an expert that I'm thrilled to welcome, Dr. Laurel Parnell. She's going to help us continue this really crucial conversation and explore more about the tools like EMDR and resource tapping. She's going to help us talk about how to heal trauma and break the negative cycles in our relationships, how to do this trauma work relationally. Dr. Parnell, Dr. Laura has a PhD in clinical psych. She's the executive director of the Parnell Institute and co-director of the nonprofit Trauma Assistance Program International, TAP In, which is clever. She's one of the world's leading experts on eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, which is what EMDR is, in case you didn't know. She's the originator of the EMDR-related therapies, Attachment-focused EMDR, and resource tapping. Since 1995, she's trained thousands of therapists in EMDR, both nationally and around the world. She's also the author of Attachment-focused EMDR, Healing Relational Trauma, A Therapist's Guide to EMDR, Rewiring the Addicted Brain with EMDR-based Treatment, and Tapping In. She served on the faculty of California Institute for Integral Studies and John F. Kennedy University. Laura, welcome to The Trouble with Sex. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, and thank you for helping me so much after my recent trauma. You really so generously did an EMDR session with me when I was like fresh from my attack on the street in Washington when someone attacked me just in this random act of violence. And you were really helpful. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we were talking before the show about, the long list of symptoms that happen for months afterwards. I did get a concussion, so some of the symptoms are from the concussion, but 6 months later, I'm still struggling. Maybe you can help me. Like, how do you differentiate what's the trauma? What's the physical injury? How long is a trauma supposed to last? Like, what's happened is I realized that this trauma lifted the lid off all the traumas from my childhood. So now I'm not just dealing with the fact that I was attacked, mugged, beaten up, but now I realize, oh my God, I had so much trauma from my childhood that I thought I dealt with,
right?
In my past therapies. And it's brought up some, weird, interesting symptoms. I'm sure you see this all the time.
So what you're describing is you'll have the bad thing that happened to you, which can have a lot of elements to it. So it's not just the one thing that shatters you, that's life-threatening, but it's also how other people respond to you afterwards. and including the medical people or friends or, all the other things that happen afterwards and the things that happened before. And so what happens in the brain is all these things that happen around the same time all get linked up. So the location it happened in, the time of day, all of those things all get linked up in the brain. So, and if they remind you of things that happened in your earlier past, it can link those up too. So there are ways of working with it where you say, we're going to work on this trauma only and try to get all the elements of it taken care of. But sometimes the things from the past are coming up so strongly that you have to do with the past stuff in order to really take care of the present trauma that you have. So, and then you've got the physical repercussions, the things that you had, head injuries and concussions and all of that. And then that links into other things of feeling very vulnerable and not yourself anymore. And, so it's not so simple, especially when you've had a physical injury like you've had.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a couple areas. One is my capacity to think, like my aphasia. I'm not as smart as I was. Like I can't think of words. I'm just not as like driven or ambitious to make things happen. Like my creativity just sort of went underground, and I can feel it coming back. It's starting to wake up a bit. But the other thing that really shocked me is my social skills. Like I put my head under the pillow. I just want to watch TV. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to be out in public. I don't want to be at the party. I don't want to go out to dinner with anyone. I don't want to talk on the phone at all. Like that's gotten better. Last night I did go out for dinner with people. Like it's starting to at least creep back in that I can be social, but I didn't want to talk to anyone. And I just recently heard that can be a symptom of trauma.
It's hard to say, and it could be part of the head injury and the shock to your whole system that you're still recovering from. And so all of those things can feel overstimulating and then your brain can't process them. And so it's like you want to be in a calm, comfortable place so that your system can recover because you have the physical manifestation, the physical impact of what happened to you. So I think there's that. I think you probably get stimulation overload now without your brain not processing as it used to process. And then that hits self-esteem issues and I'm not good at, all that other stuff can get activated where you're not yourself yet because you're not yourself yet. No. So what you're saying too is it's hard to determine what's trauma, PTSD type trauma, and what's a manifestation of the physical aspect of that. It's hard to tease them apart. But also I think that your whole, I'll just say generally, one's whole view of the world can be shattered with something like that. It's like your sense of safety in the world as you move through. We generally feel like we live in a safe area or we're in a safe neighborhood, what we consider to be a safe neighborhood. When something like that happens, it shatters your sense of safety in the world as you move through the world. So that is like very disorienting, I imagine, to just figure out where am I in this. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And that's been the biggest shocker is that I can't walk down the street when there's other people on the street, especially if they're coming toward me and I cross the road and I just judge everyone by, their intentions that I make up intuitively. Yeah. Like, are they here to hurt me? And what are they thinking? And my startle response is very triggered very easily. So somebody will come around a corner and I'll be like, dude, you should have warned me.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And even like in a crowd, like waiting in line for something or at a restaurant, my sense of personal space safety is different. And, I just, as someone who has taught about trauma, written about trauma, worked with people who've had trauma in their childhood, sexual trauma, having gone through this experience, I have like this new awareness. Like, first of all, everything I said was true. Like, I wasn't talking, I'm making it up, but I have a new awareness of what it really means to heal. It takes a long time. It's like you said, like there's a nervous system response that you cannot control. And there is no escaping it. You can't escape it. You can't take a drink and say, okay, I feel better temporarily. You can't go swimming and say, okay, for right now, I feel safe. Like, you just can't get away from yourself.
Yeah, frankly, I think there's more for you to process with regard to the incident itself. Those elements that you were describing of not feeling safe in a group or walking down the street, I think those things are workable with EMDR, but your brain may not be back online because of your brain healing from the assault itself. So, but I think those things that you were describing, those things are EMDRable. Those can really be reduced in my experience. But I think there's going to be a new awareness in your life. I think after such an impactful event, you will never be the same in terms of your awareness that these things can happen to a person and that can happen to you. I know prior to having a big event like that, it's like these things happen to other people.
Exactly.
Not to me in my life. It's like, this is like, especially something so random. And it's got to impact, because the perpetrator was a man, it's got to affect your feeling of safety around men in particular, right? It's not so much a woman walking down the street, it would be a man walking down the street, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So tell us what EMDR is for our listeners and how it can help with sexual healing, attachment, any kind of trauma healing, because I've actually found it super helpful, difficult. I've done some training to do it, and frankly, I would rather be a patient than a therapist doing EMDR. I really need the work instead of to be able to do the work for others, but it's fascinating to me how it works and how you apply it.
Well, you just asked a super general question, so see if I can give you some of it. So
you can do it because you're the expert.
Yeah, right. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It was developed in the mid-'80s, by psychologist Francine Shapiro, who at the time was a graduate student in clinical psychology. So since her discovery and the original work with EMDR, we've been evolving it, especially what we call attachment-focused EMDR. But I'll give you the basic idea. The idea is that when a trauma occurs, it gets locked in the nervous system and the way it went in, with the image, the emotions, the body sensations, and the thoughts or beliefs that go in at the time. So they go in fragmented form. And our natural healing system that we all have, when we have a functioning brain, I have to say, our natural healing system is disrupted because of the traumatic experience. And so reminders of it, smells, sounds, things like that, light up the entire nervous system because it's all on the right side of the brain. What EMDR does, what we do with EMDR is we create safety first through resourcing and stabilization, and then we light up the trauma network. We light up the nervous system where the trauma is stored with the image, the emotions, the body sensations, and whatever those erroneous beliefs are that get locked in at the time. We light it up, and then we add alternating bilateral stimulation. So in the early days of EMDR, it was all eye movements. And what we found is other forms of bilateral stimulation work just as well, if not better. I haven't used eye movements in probably 20 years because nobody wanted to use them. So you can tap, you can drum, you can have auditory stimulation that goes right, left, right, left. There are those little pulsar things you can hold that make vibrations. So the idea is to activate both sides of the brain. And what happens is it sets off a rapid processing effect. It's thoughts, feelings, body sensations, information begins to flow very rapidly. And it moves the person to what we call an adaptive resolution. You move towards health and wholeness. So this natural healing system that we have that's disrupted with the trauma gets kick-started with the bilateral stimulation. And so you move, thoughts, feelings, all this stuff. We go for a while, we check in, we go for a while, we check in. And by the end of the session, the person feels the incident, feels like it happened a long time ago. You no longer feel as connected to it. You have appropriate beliefs about yourself. It might just be it happened, or I'm okay as I am, or I'm safe now. The emotional charge is gone. And so this is kind of the idea with EMDR. So in order to do EMDR, you have to have a functioning brain, that's going to allow this rapid processing. You have to feel enough safety has to be in place. There has to be typically a therapeutic relationship where you feel safe enough, especially if you're going to do early childhood work. The early, the really tough stuff, this early sexual abuse, any of that early trauma. You need a safe therapeutic relationship where the person is willing to go to these scary places and feel the feelings. So very often with EMDR, very strong feelings will come up. And so the person has to be okay with riding the big waves of emotion and, getting to the other side of that. And there has to be an activated memory network. So in the case of neglect, often there isn't an activated memory network. It's the absence of what happened, right? Rather than something that happened, like an abuse incident. Maybe they just never had anybody who held them and comforted them or loved them or took care of them. It's just missing. So with basic EMDR, you have to have an activated memory network. You have to have the capacity to ride the waves of affect. You have to have enough safety set up. So all of those things. There's other things, they've got to be stable enough to go there. So that's the basic idea with EMDR, and it's unbelievably powerful and effective for trauma. And then what we call resource tapping is something that in basic EMDR they call resource installation. But I've changed the term because the term installation sounds like you're putting something into somebody, which isn't what we're doing.
It sounds a little cult-like. I don't like that.
Doesn't it? It really sounds cult-like. Some of the terminology within EMDR I really object to because number one, it doesn't describe what it is, and it feels like you're doing something to somebody, which really is not what EMDR is. So with resource tapping or resource installation, we light up the resource we're wanting to cultivate more of. So in attachment-focused EMDR, we have 4 foundational resources. We have the peaceful place, nurturing figures, protector figures, and wise figures. And we light up imagery that represents these figures. When the person has a strong felt sense of the figure, we add short amount of bilateral simulation.
So let's think of this as an example. So you would have me picture like a wise guide in my mind.
Yeah.
And then we would do tapping as you're talking about, like guide us through an example.
So I'll do peaceful place, which is very simple. And in basic EMDR, they use the word safe place, and I eliminated that because so many people who've had trauma the word safe is actually an activating word because they can't, as you know, if I said safe, you go, oh no, unsafe. If I say, can you imagine a place where you feel at ease, where you feel calm, a happy place? That's much easier. Or a place in nature, or even an activity you enjoy doing, like singing or hearing music or something. What we're looking for is imagery that will calm the nervous system down. So can you imagine a peaceful place, a place you enjoy going to? And people pick the beach. I mean, you're in Southern California, there's beautiful beaches, right? So imagine it could be a beautiful beach that you enjoy going to. And so you really drop into the imagined experience of the beach. So you feel the sand, what's temperature, what are you smelling, just really drop into the ease of that place. And when you have a good felt sense of it, start to tap. So if you're tapping, so you can tap on either shoulder, you can tap on the sides of your legs, and you maybe go 6 to 12 right, left, right, left. The idea is you just go until it feels stronger. You don't go any longer if it starts to associate into anything that's unsafe or uncomfortable. So only positive, only positive. So with the resource tapping, we focus only on the positive. So you have a good sense of that, and then you go, oh, okay. So you can now think, if you need to contact a sense of peacefulness, you think of your beach. You can even think of a word you'll say, my beach. Think of my beach. Okay, I got it. So right away, it'll take you there. So I do this with nurturing figures, protector figures, wise figures. You can imagine them all as a team. And then you have this sense of support. And so we do this before doing the trauma work with EMDR. We do as an assessment. Can the person even find these figures? Can they even connect to resources? So the way I work in attachment-focused EMDR, it's all about creating safety before we do any of the big stuff. And in my trainings, we teach from the beginning how to work with early childhood trauma. Because in most of the standard trainings, they don't teach people how to do that. And in my experience, what happens is most people who have these, what we call single incident traumas, they lead right to the big ones from childhood.
Yeah, like this would happen to me. So something happens to me, I'm in my 60s, and all of a sudden I'm in therapy and I'm talking about stuff that happened when I was 10. So
Right.
That's what happens. It lifts the lid off.
It does. And this is why I really believe in my trainings, I teach everybody how to work with the childhood traumas because I want my therapist to be equipped to work with it. Your client comes in and says, oh, I had this assault. That's all. I've got a great childhood. They go in and they go, oh, it's leading to, and the therapist goes, I don't know what to do. You go, no. I want therapists to know what to do and how to work with that. And that's also why we set up these resources ahead of time, because you need a safety net. It's like, otherwise you're throwing them into the trauma pool without easing them in with all that safety set up. So,
well, and I think that's a big problem with the world of therapy for sexual trauma. So we have, unfortunately, a world where there's a lot of people who've grown up with trauma and sex and intimacy all connected.
Right.
And so, the more I work with people and the more we do the early attachment work and talk about their current sex lives and their relationships, the more I just see and feel and uncover the struggle that people have from their past around their roles, around sexuality and what they've experienced. And, for everyone out there, for all of our sexy listeners, a lot of you have had sexual abuse and trauma, and there's a lot of even just shame and guilt around sex, what we've taught in religion and in our culture around how people should feel about it, how people in female bodies and trans bodies, like there's so much misunderstanding and so much hurt. And I feel like we're right now, our role is to help people heal.
Right. To
help people heal around this sexual wound. And I think everybody has it to some extent. I mean, certainly there's people that have bigger sexual traumas and more intense sexual traumas. But I think if you've grown up in this era, you have some kind of wounds around sexuality.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big topic. And what you find is that these early experiences that people have around sex inform how they feel as they grow up and develop. So if it's been sexual abuse by someone they were closely attached to, that's very much damaged their sexuality, the sense of shame, and their relationships around trust. And it can be profoundly confusing. So one of the things that we're doing with attachment-focused EMDR, and this is what I was going to say, that really is the evolution of it, is it's what they didn't get. So EMDR kind of standard, regular EMDR works really well with the traumas. But what if they've never had an experience of a healthy sexual relationship? What if their relationships with sex had to do with being exploited or hurt by somebody? So therefore, their associations with sex are going to be sex and love don't go together. Sex is going to be associated with somebody hurting you or taking advantage of you. All of that's going to be, think about the neural networks. Things that happen get linked up in the brain. So one of the ways to work with it is to create, let's say, new parents. So if abuse had to do with parents, we'll create an ideal mother, maybe an ideal father, a new family, and then do a redo on their development.
So when you say we'll recreate an ideal mother, ideal father, ideal family, tell people how do you do that? You just do it in your head and like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's like, poof, you got it. Well, most people know what they wish they had. They may I
wish I had Bewitched as my mother.
There you go. What was her name? Samantha? Was her name Samantha? Oh my God, Samantha. She's so pretty too, right?
I know.
She's pretty.
She was magic.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay.
Or the
So-
Partridge Family mother. That was my other magical.
So there you go. You're already getting how to do this. So you just imagine the mother you wish you had. You know, what would her qualities be? Somebody will go, yes, this one from, television when growing up. Or they'll say, my best friend's mom, I used to spend a lot of time there. Or they'll have somebody, or you can make, or my second grade teacher. Or you'll just take elements of different people to construct her, even elements of yourself. Someone who is a mother now, they know what I wish my mother was like. So we'll just construct her, and then you tap her in. And then imagine having her as your mother through your whole development. And then you just go slowly as they need. And then a lot of the bad things that happened to the person wouldn't have happened because this mother was there. She's going to protect them, right? And then the same thing can go with sexual development. You can imagine what you would have needed to grow up and have a healthy relationship to your body and to your own sexuality. Mm-hmm. They can see, okay, this, and this damaged it. Well, what would be, maybe it's an ideal partner. Imagine having an ideal boyfriend when you were in high school. Mm-hmm. Someone who loved you, who was kind. You could learn to explore each other's bodies in a healthy way. And you felt good, and you could say no, and you could say yes, and you could discover together. And what would that be like? And then reimagine. Because you see, part of the problem, if a person hasn't had an experience of a healthy sexual relationship, they don't have the neural networks to know what that is. Mm-hmm. Their experience has been not that. So what would that be like?
If you grew up when I grew up, even watching television, like I Dream of Jeannie, the healthy relationship that they had was that, you lived in a bottle until your master rubbed on it for you to come out and play. Like that's what you learned.
Well, the women's roles were not so powerful. No.
And there was a lot of coercion and being used for men's pleasure and being bossed around. So even the fantasy of what it was supposed to be like was not necessarily that healthy either. And that's also in your neural network. That's also... It
is. So what would you like? How would you like to imagine that in a way that's healthy for you? And I think this is also where talk therapy, talking about what are healthy relationships, what would you like it to be like? They may not have lived a model of it, but they may have seen it somewhere or recognized it in contemporary relationships. I might say, okay, maybe, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to say, I could go who I imagine might have a healthy relationship, but I have no idea, so I don't need to project that. But, I was going to say the Obamas in terms of, two people.
I think they do.
I know, but that would be my projecting, right? But certainly they have a respectful, loving relationship, right? That I could say. They have a respectful, loving relationship. I don't know about their sexual relationship, but they have a respectful, loving relationship.
We should have them on and ask them. I'd love to know.
They have a respectful, loving relationship that we saw, when they were in office. So that could be, like, who do you know who has the kind of relationship? And so you can build on that. Mm-hmm. But I think repairing through imagination and bilateral stimulation could be, the early attachment stuff, but later through those years of developing a healthy relationship to your body, to your sexuality, reimagining, because what you're then doing is you're laying down new neural networks.
Mm-hmm. And that, right. People need to hear that. It's not just imagining for fantasy and wish fulfillment. I mean, you really are, when you imagine it and then you add in the bilateral tapping, you really are sort of, digging new deer paths in the woods.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because what's happened, the whole idea is that neurons that fire together wire together. So the more you have certain kinds of relationships, the more deeply embedded those patterns are. Mm-hmm. And even if you say, I don't want that, you're actually reinforcing it. Mm-hmm. But if you go into what I do want, what kind of person do I want to be with? What kind of sexual relationship do I want to have that's healthy? And then you really drop into imagining that with bilateral stimulation, you're creating new neural networks. Mm-hmm. Instead of, this is not, I don't want this, I don't want is reinforcing. I want this, and you're really creating and you're reinforcing what you do want. That's changing the pattern. And then what you'll see is, I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough. And then, oh, what in the past is linked to that, right? So but you have to also, like, let's redo your imagined development with the kind of relationship that would have created healthy relationship to your body and to your sexuality. And I think this is the therapy, talk about it, and now let's imagine that. Really step into that, imagine what that could be like.
And I think it's also, our opportunity to help people parent themselves in the way that they wanted to be parented. Like, we are the parent that we were always looking for. And we are now, as adults, the sexual partner we've always been looking for. Like, we are the person that's going to take care of us and be there for us and allow us to have pleasure. And it really is empowering us to be all those things in our life that we didn't get.
Yeah, and then if a person has a loving partner, but that partner hasn't been able to, because of all the trauma and all of the stuff in the past, hasn't been able to, how would I put it, provide for the person the sexual relationship that would be good for them because the other one's so triggered. This can also be rewired slowly, lovingly, with control. I think, adding in these neural networks with a real human who's got to be willing to do that with the other person. But I think setting the background for...
Would you do that together, like facing them in the same room, like both people imagining their ideal sex life, ideal partnership, and sharing that with each other? How do you do that as a couple?
No, I wouldn't do it that way. It would be more like I'd work with, let's say woman. I'm going to, we're talking about a woman's experience. It would be more like doing all the work with her first. Let's say targeting the traumas, the sexual traumas, doing that early childhood work, and doing the ideal mother, maybe ideal father, redoing development, and then, imagining a healthy relationship to your body, and then redoing development that way, sexual development, that would be, in her mind, what she wished she'd experienced. Okay. Do that work first. Then I think the in vivo part would be homework with husband, partner, right? Where what would help you to begin to heal this in a way that feels safe for you? And maybe do it talk about it in the couple. If you're doing couples work, talk about it in the couple, have a conversation about that so that he's on board for that. He understands what she needs. She finds the words to explain it, and then they go do that. And they see how that is. And then you could, how was that for you, for her? And then have her tap in the positive part of that. So that she's, again, you're building new networks of a healthy relationship.
I'm laughing because I'm just thinking of a student who was in one of my supervision groups, and she was doing couples work, and she had the partner tapping the other partner. And I was like, I don't know if that's a thing. When they were doing their EMDR, and then the partner would tap her. And I was like, ooh, I don't know, maybe.
It depends. It really depends. Yeah. Because if he doesn't do it right there, it's not going to go well.
I feel like it's like a passive aggressive slapping around a little bit. Like,
it could be. Then that's certainly not a good thing, right?
No, let me tap you. I can tap you. I'm going to fix you. Like, that's.
But if they do like resourcing each other, like he taps her knees for her peaceful place, and then she taps in his peaceful place. Oh, so she's tapping, and then they listen to, tell me how the speed is, how the pressure is this good for you? Having those kind of conversations could be really good in terms of the sex part too, right? Yeah, so if she's saying tap faster or tap slower, or just in terms of doing the resourcing, I wouldn't do it as far as the EMDR part. Oh no. I think EMDR is really, it's such an individual experience, and the information that comes out may not be good for the partner to be hearing. Yeah. And then the person who's the client could start censoring themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're holding back, and then it's not therapeutic.
And then the whole touching the other partner, touching them while they're going through it, it feels weird.
Oh, no. Yeah, you can see it's just, there's too many problems with that.
Yeah.
All of this, anytime you add touch into anything, it's like, it has to be safe. It has to be right.
Yeah.
All of those issues.
Challenge. Yeah. When we come back from our break, I'm going to ask you what I ask all my guests. What do you think is the biggest trouble with sex today? We'll be right back.
Davenport Publications presents James and Jim.
James Morrison had it all. A beautiful wife. A perfect family. He was ready for partnership with a prestigious management consultant firm in the big city. He had everything a man could want. Until...
One night, on an ordinary train ride home, James witnesses a murder. Or does he? And is his new client the murderer? Sometimes murder is just part of the job. Witty. Wicked. A diabolical new thriller by Douglas Moser. James and Jim. On sale now.
Have you started to think about that sexy date night? Well, here's just a sampling of some of the cards. Touch your partner in a way that you'd like to be touched. Or how about this one? Describe a sexual fantasy you would never take into action but have thought about. To get your deck, just go to Amazon and type Date Night Card Deck Tammy Nelson. That's Date Night Card Deck Tammy Nelson. Create your exciting and sexy date night today.
The Psychotherapy Network or Symposium is the preeminent conference in Washington, D.C. for therapists. They recently started Innovations in Psychotherapy in Anaheim, California. We've attended both and asked attendees what they thought was the biggest trouble with sex today. Here's what one therapist had to say.
What do you think is the biggest trouble with sex today?
That is such an expansive question, but I think right to the point is sexual rigidity of people feeling so rigid in how they could define themselves sexually, and honestly, how can we work with people to help that expand and change as they have a lot of different experiences?
We'd like to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest trouble with sex today? Go to thetroublewithsex.com and click on Ask Dr. Tammy and submit your response today. We may use it on a future episode. Now, let's get back to our conversation with our guest to hear their answer. We're back with Dr. Laurel Parnell. Laurel is an expert here in trauma, EMDR, relationships, and attachment. Laurel, what do you think is the biggest trouble with sex today?
Oh, wow. The biggest trouble with sex today. You know, I don't know enough about what the biggest trouble is. I'm suspecting, it's so funny. Okay, so the age I am, we're probably a similar generation. Everybody was experimenting. Mm-hmm. You know, my roommate in college was really into guys and had a lot of different guys. And then she was with a woman and then she was back with guys again. And it was like, no big deal. People were doing all of these things. There were, open marriage was a thing, you know? It was like, now they're calling it, what do they call it? Polyamory. It's like, this isn't new. None of the stuff they're talking about is new. In my experience, it's like, they're acting like they just invented this. It's not invented. But I think part of the problem is that sex is powerful. That joining of bodies and that exchange of energy is very powerful. And as a woman, you're letting that energy into your body. That, I think there's a minimization of what that is doing, both physiologically and energetically. Do you want to be carrying this person's energy in your body? Psychically, it's powerful. And I think there's a minimization, and it's not moralistic. This isn't not about morals or, you know, as long as everybody's consenting, you know, there's no abuse going on, but it's really complicated because there's so much abuse in the past, so that somebody can be acting out something that actually is not healthy for her because of her trauma history, and she's unconsciously acting that out. So I think part of the problem is the lack of recognition of the exchange of energy and the impact on your entire psyche. and the minimization of the importance of relationship, of that this is an intimate experience with another human being. And yes, jealousy can get activated, and that's not something wrong with you. There's a kind of natural response, the sharing of multiple partners, and there's something wrong with me that I'm not comfortable with that. It's like, yeah, many people have trouble with that, and also the impact on children of multiple relationships. Children, I think, really want stability in their families, and this stuff that shakes that up. People experimented with everything, and I'm seeing the results of how traumatic that was on children who are now adults of their parents' experimentation. So I've seen a lot of that trauma for the kids, and then the lack of boundaries. There's a loss of boundaries all over the place now, especially with the experimentation with the psychedelics and the expansion of consciousness. And then there's a loss of ethics in some cases because there's a loss of boundaries. So I want to come back to recognizing a deep connection with ourselves of how something is affecting us, and not how we want it to affect us, but how is it really impacting us? And then to listen deeply to ourselves and the connection we have with others in our life. How is this affecting others who are close to me? So that's kind of the lens, is that of increased awareness in that area. Is this serving me and the people I love and care about, or is it causing more chaos and confusion and trouble? So it's not moral. It's not a moral judgment about good or bad. It's more really looking at this objectively. Is this helping or not? Is this really where I want my energy to be going? So that's a little bit about what I'm a little concerned about these days.
So, Laurel, we have a question from a listener, and I'm choosing this one because it applies really to me, and I'm curious. And it says, "Dear Dr. Tammy, I had a trauma when I was a teenager, and ever since then, I have not been able to trust my own intuition. I got in a car, and I knew I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And what was wrong with me that I cannot get that feeling back of safety in the world? I hope that you can, I'm sorry, I can't read it. I hope that you can handle this on your show, and best of luck in your healing." And they didn't sign it.
Yeah, no,
Thank you to the listener and to the person that wrote that, because I almost cried when I read it, because I was like, that's so impactful. That's what happened to me. That was the first thing that I realized, is that what happened to my intuition? How did I not know that this was going to happen? How did I not feel that this attack was coming? How did I not have a sense of it? It took a while, and it took EMDR to realize that I did know that it was coming on some level. Like, I was carrying a salad. It was coming out from dinner, and I had a leftover salad, and I purposely went to the garbage can and threw it out. And I was wearing a scarf, and I took the scarf off and I put it in my bag. And then I turned around to walk down the street. So I must have known that I needed my hands free. And that took months to get to that place, but it was so healing to know that maybe I did have some intuitive sense. It doesn't mean that I walked down a different street, but I wasn't totally blocked from my intuition. But I think that's a really hard thing to learn to trust again. Not that you don't trust the world, or you don't trust people who are, driving cars, or you don't trust certain situations, but you don't trust yourself. That's hard to get back.
Well, I think in the example that the listener just provided, I've had many women with similar experiences. And what's very powerful is women, this is very different from your experience, though. This is a different one. This is a woman doing something like staying at the bar when her friends have left, or getting in the car of a stranger who offers her a ride. That her gut says, this isn't right. but her mind overrules her and says, it's okay, or the conditioning that we have as women of you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Mm-hmm. Their feelings are more important than your safety. We do this all the time as women. So part of the trauma work with EMDR is targeting the bad thing that happened, but also what led up to it. So that place of guy offers you a ride, your gut says, nah, but your mind overrides you and you get in the car and then the bad thing happens. That place, and I use this example all the time in my trainings, frankly, because it was a client I had years ago. She's stuck. I'm really angry. I never should have gotten in the car. I never should have gotten in the car. So I said to her, okay, why did you get in the car? Who is the 18-year-old who got in the car that day? Or just, why did you get in the car? Let's go with the question. And then we add bilateral stimulation for her to explore the backstory of why she got in the car. Mm-hmm. So what came up for her was, so she's got her eyes closed, the bilateral stimulation is going, and she opens her eyes and she says, I was trained never to hurt anybody's feelings. Mm-hmm. And then she has the whole backstory of her mother teaching her to put up with stuff that men do, all of that. And then she says, I'm not getting in the car. I said, okay, imagine not getting in the car. And then we add bilateral stimulation. And so that completely changed it for her. Mm-hmm. So she recognized where that choice came from. And then in her imagination, she makes a different one. And then the result of it is, I can listen to my intuition. Mm-hmm. So which is different from yours, because this was, what happened to you? But what happens to a lot of women is, they didn't want to, something said, this isn't safe to do such and such, but they went, oh, come on. Or other people said, oh, come on. And they went, okay. And then I'll say, okay, why did you stay at the bar? Why did you da-da-da? Let's just go with the question without any judgment about it. Let's explore what was, well, I like the attention.
Without shame.
Yeah, I like the attention. Okay. And then I'll ask, did you know that such and such was going to happen to you if you stayed? And she'll say, no. I'll say, go with that. Mm-hmm. That begins to unhook it, because there's a lot of these different hooks that get attached to it. So there's a reason we don't listen to our intuition in these kind of situations. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is the conditioning that women have to not hurt somebody's feelings. So many of the date rapes occur this way of, he said da-da-da-da, and I, didn't feel comfortable, again, hurting his feelings or making him feel bad. So then, mm-hmm. and then he thought he's getting a different message. It's like, yeah.
I know. And unfortunately, we're living in a society right now that, is not that opposed to women getting assaulted and getting sexually abused. And it seems like it's legal now. So it's a weird time for women. Like, we really have to stand up for each other and band together and keep each other safe. And there's a lot of good men in the world. This is not to make all men perpetrators. There's a lot of people in the world that don't feel safe, and whatever bodies they're in. And there's a lot of us that can support each other and help each other feel worthy of safety and love and protection.
I think so much is really listening to our inner self, really strengthening that inner knowing mm-hmm. of what feels right and what feels wrong, and then having a voice to say no. Yeah. And that it's okay to hurt somebody's feelings. They'll get over it, or not, but that's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's a lot in the conditioning of girls and women, is that place. Mm-hmm. And it's, and then the guys, I've raised 2 sons and I'm married for over 30 years. Males can misinterpret cues from women thinking that they're saying yes, mm-hmm. because it's just the communication is wrong. So, mm-hmm. and then obviously there are bad perpetrators who, are mm-hmm. predating women, but there's also just times when they just aren't understanding the cues mm-hmm. that are coming from the female, because she doesn't know how to say what she wants or thinks or needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And because we're coming to the end, is there anything else that you want to make sure you tell our listeners?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think we're really at a time with really the importance of meditation, the importance of community and connection, to cut the isolation, to resource ourselves more than ever because we're being assaulted constantly by what's going on in our country. Is that okay to say right now?
Yes, I don't care. Let's say it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to say it. What are they going to do? Cancel us? We got to say it.
They come after us. It's like, no, it's like, it's such turbulent times, and it just feels like we're being assaulted constantly, especially females now. Women and trans people, especially, are being attacked. And so we got to come to what our own voice is, what our own truth is, stay connected to one another. And, you know, what we do, our brand of EMDR is attachment focused, and it's very different from standard EMDR because we honor the importance of the therapeutic relationship, and we do this deeper work that most EMDR trained therapists don't know how to do. So you really need to be in the right hands to be able to do the deeper work, to know how to clear these old traumas that are keeping you from living fully in all of the expressions that you have as a person.
So how can people find you? Either the people that need therapy or people that want to be trained as an EMDR therapist. Where do they find you? How do they get your books? Where should they go for help?
Yeah, so it's ParnellEMDR.com. So it's
Can you just spell that for people?
PARNELL, ParnellEMDR.com. And that's our website. It has our trainings, and it also has a find a therapist part of it. So if you want someone trained in our way of working, that's how you can find it. And then my books are all on Amazon. You know, most of them were published by W.W. Norton. Sounds True is my other publisher. They published Tapping In. And I have a brand new book that's coming out in June called Releasing What Isn't Yours.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a way to kind of resource ourselves, work with these energies. This is where, you know, we touched on a little bit of this, taking in energies and really not paying attention to the energies we're taking in and how to release these energies. So there's a lot of grounding. Energetic sovereignty is a lot about what the book is about, resourcing. Yeah. So like Sounds True is publishing that. It's Releasing What Isn't Yours. It's coming up in June.
I like energetic sovereignty. I like the thought of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, you know, when I think about myself walking down the street, you know, one of the things that really helps is just energetically like protecting myself. It's not a matter of like, oh, I need mace. It's like it's an energetic feeling of needing protection. And no one else can do that for me but me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Laura. I really appreciate you being here. I feel like this is such an important conversation, really visiting all the ways that we can help people with this world of trauma that we're in, and bringing people's past into their present so that they can heal, so that we can be more resourced, so that we can heal more people. Yeah. And also just having the conversation, like finding our voice. Yes, this is something we need to talk about. Yeah. This is not something that, you know, that we should hide, be ashamed of, ignore, deny our intuitive understanding. You know, we have to, as people, be able to heal our wounds. You know, it's almost like, it's not a Me Too moment. It's like we too, like we all have had some kind of sexual wounding, and that affects our relationships today. And it really is about connecting to ourselves so that we can connect to other people.
Oh, beautifully said. It's like connecting deeply to ourselves, learning to listen inside, respecting what we're hearing, even if we don't understand what it is we're picking up. And I think that's another piece of it. We can be picking up information and we don't understand what it is we're getting. But even if you don't understand it, act on it like, okay, I just don't feel comfortable, without even being able to say why you don't feel comfortable. It's like, just don't feel comfortable. And then finding a way to leave. But listening.
And that's true if you don't feel like going to the party and you want to stay home. You know, like learning to listen to your own needs and honoring them, even if you feel like you should be doing something else. So I appreciate that permission as well.
Absolutely. You're still healing, Tammy. This is just, You know, I often use the analogy of the cat under the bed. You know, when a cat's injured, it goes under the bed and it stays in the dark and licks its wounds. And then when it comes out, it waits to come out. And then it's its happy cat self. So you're still healing. And I think you'll come out when you feel healed enough. And I think your brain is healing and you're still feeling vulnerable. And that's just listen to that in yourself without thinking there's something wrong with me. I should be out from under the bed already. You know?
That's really touching. Thank you. Because I feel like the cat under the bed.
Yeah. You're still, you'll come out. Don't worry.
I'll come out when I'm ready.
That's it. You'll come out and you'll come out a little bit and then go back in again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Don't reach for me because I might scratch your eyes out.
Really, they'll scratch and bite too. You try to pull them out too soon. They do not like that.
Yeah, I just imagine like people poking a broom at me, trying to get me out. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Laurel. Thank you for that imagery, and thank you for being here today. And thank you for joining us on another great episode of The Trouble with Sex. To all our sexy listeners, we're going to put Laurel Parnell's information in the show notes. You can find out more about her books and her upcoming book, Releasing What Isn't Yours. And to find out any other questions, you can contact me at Ask Dr. Tammy through thetroublewithsex.com. If you want your question asked on the next episode or another episode on The Trouble with Sex, you can send in your question through the website. Thank you so much, Laurel. I really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody. Stay sexy.
Have a question about your relationship or sexual wellness? Visit thetroublewithsex.com and click on Ask Dr. Tammy to send us your questions. For sex-positive tips, live events, and updates, join our mailing list and follow us on Instagram at The Trouble with Sex. Listen to episodes of The Trouble with Sex on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please share and rate the show. We so appreciate and thank you for supporting us. The Trouble with Sex is produced by Brandy Savitt. Audio for this episode was designed by Bethany Knoll Productions. This episode was engineered and mixed by Bruce Hirschfield. Music by Bruce Hirschfield.